You know, these guys be my homies. Hey there, hi there, ho there everybody. Welcome back for another tutorial. Today we're going to be looking at the 1.15 blocks, specifically the B blocks. And I have a couple of interesting designs, some that have been around a little bit and I put my own twist on them, and some that I've never really seen before and I wanted to share with you. Let's get right into it. The first thing I wanted to show you here is a neat little idea for kind of a rice paddy, or a fish farm, I guess you could say, kind of thing. This is more of a decorative piece, although it certainly can be functional if you put wheat or carrots or something here. But I use this rickshaw design in a lot of my builds, and I thought the bee box looks really cool, like it would store like some onions or radishes or something like that. Yeah, and that's just made with half slabs. Oh, hello, Mr. B. It's made with a staircase and trapdoors. And then here we have a fence gate. Here we go. And seagrass for the rice paddy. The next thing here I wanted to look at is, and this is one I don't see a lot of people using, it's the honeycomb block. And this block is a lot like the glazed terracotta blocks. They don't really fit in a lot of places, but when they do, it's really nice. And I thought here, there's two ideas I had. The first one is kind of like a scroll shelf, like a magical scroll shelf. You have the bookshelves down here, and then behind here you can put your smaller scrolls and papers and things. And it kind of adds a nice detail, and it has that golden touch to it. It looks, expensive. Which is what brings us to our next part over here. And this would work really nice as an accent piece to a palace. It kind of looks like that metal grid, metal mesh, grill kind of thing. Except it's made out of gold. And, I did quartz here, which would be nice in a palace or maybe an ice biome. But you could certainly use wood or things like that. And again, just adds that majestic look of gold to it. It looks really nice. Okay, the next little scene I have here, moving on from the honeycomb, we're moving on to the beehive. And this, I know this technique's been out here a while, but I wanted to show you the whole picture. It looks good in kind of this beach type of bungalow, like a paradise bungalow type thing, like you'd find in the tropics. So you see I use the fence gates here for the windows, and it has that open feel there, but also you can walk through it, and because these two blocks are occupied, it, prevents, things from walking in and stuff like that. Except you can walk in. I also used these white banners just for a couple of accents on the side, some curtains, and then I used trapdoors along the border here. And another important thing here is the trapdoors on the top, which kind of give it that open air feel. Now, the main reason why this works, for those of you that haven't seen this before, is the beehive is a directional block. Depending on which way you place it, you get a different texture, orientation of the texture rather, on the block. And it makes a nice flooring pattern there for a beach bungalow or a tropical thing. All right, now moving on to the beehive itself and making it functional. These two right here are my two favorite ways to display a beehive. We have here scaffolding, and then we have spruce wood in combination with trapdoors. Now the scaffolding makes it look like it's on a nice little, table, like this is something you would see out in a bee farm. But this, I feel you have this extra lip of the trapdoor, and it gives it that much more, just a little extra detail. And it makes it look very sturdy too. So this is another one of my go-tos, and you'll see why a little bit later on, because we can do a lot of stuff to this to make it functional. All right, the next couple of blocks here are some good blocks, and some things I've seen people use because they're not full blocks. You can see we have an anvil, we have stone wall, we have the fence there, and we also have a piston. And because it's not a full block, one of the things about the beehive is when it's full of honey, it drips down the bottom. So this is actually an interesting technique that we can take advantage of to add a little extra, I guess you could say, ambiance to our builds. So if you use any of these blocks, you'll notice the honey drips right down, and it just adds that little extra touch. Adds a little extra detail. That's the word. And then, of course, as we had down below with the wood, you can also use a barrel. And this makes it functional as well. You can store your honey bottles, your glass bottles, and everything like that. Now, going back to the honey drip for a second, the next design I want to show you is a little, I guess you could say, indoor bee cave. This is utilizing both the bee nest and the beehive. And you can see when it's full of honey, it drips. And this gives a really, really nice effect to the room. We put some honey blocks on the bottom to kind of make it look like that's where the honey's pooling up. And we just did a little taper up to the side. We used trapdoors, half slabs, and I used some barrels too to make it look like storage, along with some honeycomb detailing on the sides, and this just looks like a bee cave. You can also use the same technique if you wanted to make a beehive, or rather a bee nest. If you wanted to make a giant bee nest build, you could use the dripping honey and it would give it a nice detail effect, a nice bit of detail. All right, well, moving on to something you can put in your base, or you can even put this outside if you really want. You have a beehive right here. You'll notice it's full of honey, but this is functional. If I click this button right here, you'll notice, where'd it go? Well, you saw it, it popped out. There it is, the honey bottle. What it does is behind here, I have a little redstone set up. And what it does is either of those buttons, you can push either button, and it activates the dispenser in the back. Let's see if I can click on it. There we go. And you can see it takes the glass bottles here, and it pops out the glass bottles and gives you a honey bottle. And sometimes the honey bottles go inside of the dispenser again. Sometimes they pop out, but usually they stay in. I was working on a design to have them filter down into a barrel, but I was kind of running out of time to get this video in, but it's certainly something you can do. So you can have a button at the top, press the button, it dispenses a glass jar, goes into the dispenser, and then there's a delay. The delay uses the dispenser back there to click the honey bottle, and then it goes into there. And what you can do is you can also use redstone blocks or levers to block the hoppers and stuff like that. You guys go ahead and have fun with that. I also did some flooring here with the blast furnace and a regular furnace. Looks pretty nice. Okay, now moving on to the 3 different things that we can do for the beehive. There's, of course, the dispenser that I showed you over there, but this is more of a practical design. You see here, all you do is you click it, and the honey bottle, well, it didn't have any room, so it got thrown out, but the honey bottle normally goes inside of the dispenser once it's dispensed, and that's a good way to collect honey. You just keep pressing, and it collects honey. Another thing you can do is if you get a glass bottle here, and you have a honey thing that's full, to not aggravate the bees, you have a campfire below, click it like that. That's been around for a long time. That's another thing we can do there. And then, of course, my third favorite is the scaffolding, which is really nice. It looks just like a bee box. And then you have the honey dripping down there. Now, we have all 3 of those. Let's take a look at some scenes. The first scene that I have here is a nice outdoor scene. And the big thing we have here is we have the scaffolding and we have our spruce trapdoors. But there's something I want to show you here. If you want to use the trapdoors, you know, you don't want to have a dispenser just out and about. You want to make it look nice. Put the trapdoors around a dispenser and then hook up a button. Put redstone below. Push the button. Oh, dispenser's probably not full. Anyways, moving on. We also have the scaffolding over here, and something that's important, you want to make sure you have plenty of flowers surrounding your beehives. That's very, very important, and from what I've found, the bees prefer the smaller flowers over the 2-block tall flowers. So that's a little something there. We have a cute little scene here you can also do. I just used some armor stands here, and looks like they're gonna have some honey on bread. And this just uses carpet, some custom heads, and armor stands. If you don't have the armor stands, you can just use regular armor stands if you don't have the little baby ones, and they work just as nice. Okay, so it looks like a nice little picnic in the beehive, the bee grove. Again, the flowers and everything there. Put a little collection system back here for some honey. You know, you can put some honey bottles in here, and you can actually make this functional as well as, you know, a nice little detail touch. Put a custom tree over the top and you're good to go. Okay. Now, the last detail I wanted to show you is my favorite. And this one right here is a bee sanctuary. You can see in the front here we have little wings, what appears to be wings. But when you come inside, you get this nice open feel. The roof is wide open, and there's a tree growing in from the inside, and you could put bee nests all around. So you have the bee nests there. You also have the beehives periodically around here. Oh, they're talking. That's nice. Beehives there, beehives there. Of course, you can put as many beehives as you want here, but the main thing is that you have a nice open sanctuary. Use some glass and just put up some wood supports, put some glass around it, and you're good to go. That's honestly all this is just wood supports and glass. Come around to the back here. We have another bee area. We have a table with a bee box, and I use these trapdoors for a little bit more of an accent, and I put the birch trapdoors on top, so it kind of looks like a little lid to the box. Yeah. And again, we have the thing here. You can put a dispenser here, of course, and then rig up some redstone. I'm not the best at redstone, but, you know, it all works. And then put a custom tree or two around here. I can picture this in between like 2 mountains or, you know, something like that. And then on the outskirts here, you could put even more bee farms, or you could even put some sweetberry bush farms. Who knows? Make it like locally sourced, organic, stuff like that. Ooh, one last thing I will mention here. If you make a custom tree, something that's nice is have a little branch sticking out of the top. Put a little beehive there. That's a nice little detail. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you found any of this stuff useful, or if you like any of this stuff, let me know in the comments section below. I'll catch you in the next video.
Bye-bye!